The bride who ran broke his heart, but the black maid who stayed healed it. Before we start today's story, comment below where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you haven't already. You won't want to miss what's next. It was supposed to be the happiest day of Grant Crestwell's life. He was a rich and famous man in Charleston. Everyone came to see him marry Bianca Lancaster, the prettiest and most popular woman in town. The big church was full of guests, flowers, and fancy music. But something was wrong. 2 long hours had passed, and the bride still had not come. The empty seat beside Grant told everyone the truth. She was not coming. Grant stood in a small room behind the church. His best friend Corbin handed him a glass of whiskey. "She's not coming, is she?" Grant asked softly. Corbin sighed. "Her mother just called. Bianca left a note. She ran away to Europe with that photographer from your engagement photos." Grant drank the whole glass at once. His heart felt broken, and shame burned in his chest. Everyone was there. 300 guests, the governor, even senators. And now all of them would whisper about how Grant Crestwell had been left at the altar. His father came to the doorway, trying to stay calm. "I'll make the announcement," he said. Grant said nothing. He just walked out of the church, past the shocked faces and the people taking pictures on their phones. He got into his shiny silver Bentley and drove away fast, leaving tire marks on the road. 3 weeks later, Grant stayed alone in his big house outside Charleston. The mansion was large and beautiful, with long porches and lovely gardens, but it felt sad and empty now. He had canceled his honeymoon and stopped going to work at his family's company. In that quiet house worked a young woman named Ariel Vaughn. She was 27 years old and had been the Crestwell family's housekeeper for almost 5 years. She was kind, gentle, and always worked hard. But ever since the wedding disaster, the house felt like a tomb. No laughter, no music, only silence. One morning, Ariel walked down the long hallway with her cleaning cart. She stopped outside Mr. Crestwell's study and knocked softly. "Mr. Crestwell, would you like your coffee now or later?" she asked. No answer came, but that didn't surprise her. She carefully opened the door and saw him sitting at his desk, staring out the window at the tall oak trees. "I'll just leave it here then," she said kindly, putting the cup down. She always made it the way he liked it, strong, a little cream, no sugar. As she turned to go, he suddenly spoke. "They're all calling. The board, my parents. They want me back at work." His voice sounded tired and sad. Ariel stopped. She wasn't sure if she should answer, but she said softly, "Sometimes people think moving on means forgetting, but I think moving on and forgetting are two different things." Grant looked at her for the first time in weeks. His blue eyes looked dull, with dark circles under them. "And what do you think, Ariel?" he asked. She blinked in surprise. He remembered her name. Most rich people didn't even notice her. "I think forgetting is impossible," she said gently, "but moving forward is something we all must try." He looked at her quietly and then said, "Thank you for the coffee." It was a polite way to say the talk was over. Ariel nodded and went back to work. Days turned into weeks. Grant's parents visited sometimes. His mother scolded him, saying, "You must move on." His father said, "Crestwells don't wallow in sadness." But they never stayed long. Friends stopped calling too. Ariel kept working quietly. She didn't pity him or ask questions. Sometimes she hummed soft gospel songs her grandmother had taught her when she was a girl. Her calmness made the house feel a little more alive. One evening, a big summer storm came. Rain crashed against the windows and thunder roared. The lights went out. Ariel found candles in the kitchen and lit them. She decided to leave some in Mr. Crestwell's room before heading home to her small apartment above the garage. When she passed the drawing room, she saw a dim light inside. Grant was sitting there with a glass in his hand, a small lamp beside him. "I brought some candles," she said, stepping inside. "Thank you," he said softly. Then, after a pause, "You don't have to leave yet." Ariel hesitated, but then she sat in a chair across from him. The two sat quietly while the rain poured and thunder rolled. The silence didn't feel awkward, it felt peaceful. After a while, Grant spoke. Do you ever feel like your life was supposed to be something else? Like you tried to fit into what everyone wanted, and then one day you realized it was all pretend? Ariel thought for a moment. Yes, she said gently. Like it was all just for show. He looked at her, surprised. I wanted to be a singer once, she said, smiling a little. My mama spent money on piano lessons. People said I had a gift. What happened? Asked. Life, she said. Mama got sick. I needed to work. Dreams don't pay hospital bills. Grant looked at her closely. For the first time, he really saw her. Her kind brown eyes, her soft face, her hands folded neatly in her lap. Do you regret it? He asked. Sometimes, she said. But Mama got the care she needed. That's worth more than any stage. They talked until the storm ended and the lights came back on. Grant felt something new inside. Not happiness yet, but something close. The next morning, Ariel found a small box in the kitchen, a new record player with a note that said, For your humming. The house has been too quiet. She smiled and tucked the note in her pocket. Over the next few weeks, things slowly changed. Grant came out of his study more often. He made his own coffee sometimes and even read books on the veranda. Ariel noticed he smiled more too. One afternoon, while she was dusting and singing softly, she turned to see him standing at the doorway. Sorry, she said quickly. Don't be, he said kindly. You have a beautiful voice. What's that song? Just an old one from my grandmother, she said. Grant stepped closer. Were you close with her? Yes, Ariel said warmly. She raised me after Mama passed. She taught me everything important, cooking, singing, and how to stay strong. She sounds wise, Grant said. The wisest, Ariel smiled. What about your grandparents? My grandfather, Grant said softly. He built Crestwell Industries from nothing. Everyone saw the wealth, but I saw how kind he was to people. He knew all his workers' names. I think he'd be disappointed in me now. I doubt that, Ariel said. Grief changes us, but it doesn't make us less. Their eyes met. For a moment, something warm filled the air between them. That night, Grant took out his journal, the one he hadn't touched since the wedding. He started to write again. She hums when she thinks no one hears. Her songs make this empty house feel less hollow. How strange that the person who sees me best is the one I barely noticed before. The next day, his parents arrived without warning. His mother, Seraphina Crestwell, came in with fancy perfume. His father followed, looking strict. Enough is enough, Grant, his mother said. It's been 2 months. Bianca embarrassed herself, not you. Go back to work. I'm not ready, Grant said quietly. Crestwells don't listen to feelings, his father snapped. We have duties and traditions. Traditions that made me marry someone who didn't love me? Grant said, angry now. His mother frowned. This attitude is why Bianca left. You're too soft, too much like your grandfather. Ariel walked by the door carrying towels. She heard everything but pretended not to. Her shoulders were tight. I'll think about coming back, Grant said finally, but on my terms. After his parents left, he found Ariel in the garden picking flowers. The sunlight made her skin glow. I'm sorry you heard that, he said. They're just worried about you, she said kindly. No, he said. They're worried about the company, not me. He looked at her and asked softly, What would you do if you could do anything in the world? Ariel thought, then said, I'd sing again. Maybe open a little music school for kids who can't afford lessons. Grant smiled. That's not a silly dream, it's a real one. Then nervously he added, Would you sing for me sometime? A whole song. Ariel smiled shyly. I'd like that. That night, Grant wrote in his journal again. He wrote about how the sun touched her hair, how her voice sounded soft like hope, and how he listened for her humming every morning. He finally slept peacefully, dreaming not of the wedding, but of her songs and the smell of flowers. The next day, he decided to change his life. He called his office and asked for files to be sent home. He wanted to start working again, but his way. When Ariel brought his coffee to the veranda, she smiled. You're working again. Trying to. he said. I realized hiding isn't honoring my grandfather. It's betraying him. That's good, Ariel said softly. It's a beginning, Grant agreed. That night, when Ariel folded his laundry, she found a small note tucked inside. It said, "You are the only part of this house that makes it feel like home." The next morning, Ariel was putting away Mr. Grant Crestwell's clean clothes when she found a small note in his pocket. Her hands shook a little as she read the words, "You are the only part of this house that makes it feel like home." Her heart beat faster. She quickly hid the note in her pocket when she heard someone walking toward the room. It was Mrs. Peterson, the cook. "There you are, Ariel," Mrs. Peterson said. "Mr. Crestwell wants breakfast on the veranda this morning. He says he'll be working from home today." Ariel nodded and tried not to smile. "I'll make sure everything's ready," she said, but her chest felt warm inside and her heart fluttered. Later that morning, Ariel went to the guest bathroom to place fresh towels. When she turned around, she almost bumped into Grant in the hallway. For a moment, they both stopped. They were standing closer than they ever had before. Ariel could smell his nice, soft cologne. "Good morning," Grant said gently. "Morning, Mr. Crestwell," Ariel said quickly, looking down. "Grant," he said kindly. "We've known each other long enough for that." Before Ariel could answer, his phone rang. Grant sighed. "It's the office. I have to take this." As he walked away, Ariel let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. The note in her pocket felt hot against her skin. She didn't know what to think of it, or the warm, happy feeling she got whenever he was near. Later that day, Grant's sister, Juliet, came to visit. She walked into the house wearing shiny shoes and fancy clothes. "Well, well," she said when she saw Grant in his study, "the lost brother finally comes out of hiding." Grant smiled a little. Juliet had always been the kind one in his family. "I'm just trying to get back to normal," he said. Juliet sat down on the sofa. "Mom says you're being stubborn about going back to work." "Mom thinks I'm stubborn if I don't do what she wants," Grant said. Juliet laughed. "True, but really, how are you doing?" Grant thought for a moment. "A month ago, I'd have said I'm just surviving. But now, I'm starting to feel like myself again. Like maybe things can be good." Juliet looked at him carefully. "Something's different about you. There's light in your eyes again." Before Grant could answer, Ariel came in, carrying a tray with iced tea. "Mrs. Peterson thought you might like some refreshments," she said softly. "Perfect timing," Grant said with a warm smile. Juliet noticed how Grant's eyes followed Ariel as she placed the tray on the table and left quietly. "Well, well," Juliet said with a teasing grin. "Maybe I just found the reason you're smiling again." "Don't start," Grant warned. "She's very pretty," Juliet said, smiling, "and not like the girls you usually date." "She's an employee," Grant said quickly. "An employee you call by her first name," Juliet pointed out. "The Grant I knew 3 months ago barely noticed the staff." Grant poured himself some tea, pretending not to care. "She's just been kind during a hard time." "Hmm," Juliet said with a knowing look. "Whatever you say, brother dear." After Juliet left, Grant couldn't stop thinking. Was he showing too much? Was it that obvious how much he liked being around Ariel? He knew his parents wouldn't approve. Ariel came from a simple background, and his family was rich and fancy. The newspapers had already written enough about his failed wedding with Bianca. But more than anything, Grant worried about how Ariel would feel. He didn't want her to think he was making her uncomfortable. That evening, as the sun set and the sky turned pink and gold, Grant walked to the garden. Ariel was there, cutting herbs for dinner. She wore a simple yellow sundress, and her hair was loose around her shoulders. "You're still here," he said, surprised. "I thought your shift ended at 5. "Mrs. Peterson asked for help with dinner," Ariel said. "She's making your favorite, shrimp and grits." "You know my favorite food?" he asked. Ariel blushed. "It's my job to notice things." Grant smiled and took a small step closer. "And what else have you noticed, Ariel?" Ariel looked at him with kind eyes. That you're starting to live again, not just exist, it suits you. Her words touched his heart. There were no games, no pretending, just honesty. Juliet thinks, Grant started, then stopped. My sister thinks I'm moving on from Bianca. That's good, Ariel said softly. You deserve to be happy. As she turned to go inside, Grant called, Would you like to stay for dinner? Not as staff, but as my guest? Ariel froze. I don't think that would be right, Mr. Crestwell. Grant, he said gently. Grant, she repeated quietly. But my answer's the same. Good night. She walked away, leaving him alone in the garden. The smell of jasmine filled the air. That night, Grant sat at his desk and wrote in his journal. She turned down dinner. She was right to. There are invisible lines between people like me and people like her. But when I'm with her, those lines don't matter. She sees me, not my name, not my money, just me. The next morning, Grant had meetings in the city. For the first time in months, he wore a suit and went back to the office. Everyone was happy to see him, but they talked only about business. No one mentioned Bianca or the wedding. By afternoon, he felt tired and trapped. So he left early and drove to a small music shop. Can I help you find something? Asked the old shopkeeper. Old gospel records, Grant said. The kind people loved a long time ago. He bought a stack of records and went home, feeling excited. But Mrs. Peterson told him Ariel had called in sick. Grant felt disappointed. Did she say what's wrong? He asked. Just a migraine, Mrs. Peterson said. She'll be back tomorrow. Send her some soup, Grant said, and make sure she's okay. That night, the big house felt very empty. He missed her gentle humming and the warmth she brought to every room. He opened his journal again and wrote, The house feels hollow without her. She fills it with life, even without saying much. Is it wrong to want her here? Maybe society would say yes, but my grandfather always said, follow your heart. The next morning, Grant got up early. He made a tray with toast, coffee, and a white gardenia in a vase. Mrs. Peterson saw him and smiled. Everything all right, Mr. Crestwell? Fine, Grant said. Is Ariel coming today? She called, feeling better. She'll be here by 9. Grant nodded, pretending to be calm, but inside he was happy. When Ariel arrived, she looked surprised to see him waiting in the front hall. You're up early, she said. I wanted to show you something, Grant said. If you have a moment. She followed him to the sunroom where a record player sat beside the stack of gospel records. You said your grandmother taught you gospel songs, Grant explained. I thought maybe you'd recognize some. Ariel looked amazed. She touched one of the old records gently. My grandmother had this one, she whispered. She used to play it every Sunday morning. Grant smiled. Would you play it and maybe sing if you'd like? Ariel blushed. I haven't sung in a long time. I'd still like to hear you, he said. Ariel nodded and placed the record on the player. The music began, scratchy and soft. Then she started to sing. Her voice was gentle at first, then strong and beautiful. It filled the room with warmth and peace. Grant couldn't look away. She wasn't just his housekeeper. She was someone special, someone who carried light inside her. When she finished, he said quietly, That was beautiful. Ariel looked away shyly. Thank you. It's been a long time since I've sung those songs. Why did you stop? Grant asked. You have such a gift, Ariel sighed. Life doesn't always go as we dream. When my mama died, there were bills to pay. Singing didn't pay them. But it lights something inside you, Grant said softly. I could see it. Maybe someday, she said, when the time is right. Just then, Grant's phone rang again. His father calling. Ariel quickly said, I should get back to work. Thank you for the records. As she turned to leave, Grant said suddenly, Ariel, wait, there's a charity gala this weekend for the Children's Hospital. My family hosts it every year. Would you come with me? Ariel's eyes widened. As your date? As my guest, Grant said quickly, though his heart wanted more. But I'd understand if you don't want to. People would talk, Ariel said softly. Let them talk, Grant said firmly. I've spent too long caring about what others think. Ariel thought for a long moment. Then a small, shy smile appeared on her face. "Yes," she said quietly. "I'd like that." Grant's heart leapt with joy. That night he wrote again in his journal. "She said yes, she'll come to the gala. My parents may not like it and people might gossip, but none of that matters. She matters. She's brought me back to life. Maybe being left at the altar wasn't an ending after all. Maybe it was the start of something new." That night, Ariel walked back to her small apartment above the garage. As she looked up, she saw a light shining in the big study room of the mansion. She stopped for a moment and wondered if this special feeling growing between her and Grant could really be something real. She touched her pocket where she kept his note. She knew every word by heart now. It said, "You are the only part of this house that makes it feel like home." Ariel smiled a little and whispered to the quiet night, "What are we doing, Grant Crestwell?" Only the sound of crickets answered her. Then she walked up the stairs to her apartment, feeling both happy and scared. Tomorrow was the big gala that could change everything between them. The Crestwell Children's Hospital Gala was the biggest event in Charleston. Every year, rich and fancy people came to raise money for sick children and to show off their clothes and jewels. In her small apartment, Ariel looked at her tiny closet and started to panic. She had only one nice dress, a navy blue dress she wore to her cousin's wedding. It was pretty, but not like the shiny dresses other women would wear at the grand ballroom. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from Grant. "Car will pick you up at 7. Looking forward to tonight." Ariel's heart fluttered. She was excited, but also nervous. What was she thinking? She didn't belong in Grant's world of glitter and chandeliers. She was just a housekeeper. Suddenly there was a knock at her door. She opened it and was surprised to see Juliet Crestwell, Grant's sister, standing there with 3 big garment bags. "Oh, good, you're home," Juliet said quickly as she walked in. "We don't have much time." "Miss Crestwell, what are you?" Ariel started. "Juliet," she corrected with a smile, "and I'm here to help you. My brother might be smart in business, but he has no idea what he's walking you into tonight." She unzipped one of the bags, and Ariel gasped. Inside was a beautiful emerald green gown. "I can't wear this," Ariel whispered. "You can, and you will," Juliet said firmly. "Grant invited you to the gala, right? Then you need to be ready. That world can be cruel, and this," she said, pointing at the gown, "is your armor." Ariel touched the soft fabric. "It's probably a mistake that I'm going." Juliet sat beside her and said kindly, "Not a mistake, a statement. Those rich people are like sharks. They'll circle you because you're different. But I'm helping you because my brother looks at you the way our grandfather looked at our grandmother, like you're the stars in the sky. I haven't seen him this happy in years." Ariel blushed. "It's not like that between us." Juliet winked. "Maybe not yet. Now try on this dress." 2 hours later, Ariel stared at herself in the mirror. She barely recognized her reflection. The green dress fit perfectly. Her hair was soft and wavy, and Juliet had done her makeup beautifully. "Now you look the part," Juliet said proudly. "Thank you," Ariel said quietly, "but I'm still scared." Juliet squeezed her hand. "Don't be. You belong there more than most of them. Half of them are awful people with fancy names." When the black car arrived, Ariel took a deep breath and walked down the stairs. Grant stood waiting, dressed in a tuxedo. His eyes widened when he saw her. "You look absolutely beautiful," he said softly. "Your sister helped," Ariel said, smiling shyly. "She said I needed armor." Grant chuckled. "That sounds like her." He offered his arm. "Shall we?" The drive was quiet. Both were lost in their thoughts. When they reached the Charleston Country Club, bright camera flashes popped outside. "We don't have to go in," Grant said suddenly. "We could turn around and go anywhere else." Ariel looked at him. He looked nervous too. "No," she said bravely. "Your family hosts this event. We're going." Grant smiled at her. "Then we're going together." When they stepped out, people began whispering. Grant held her hand as they entered the ballroom, filled with lights, flowers, and music. At the end of the room stood Grant's parents, Seraphina and Alastair Crestwell. When Seraphina saw Ariel, her smile froze for a moment. "Breathe," Grant whispered. "You belong here." They walked up to his parents. "Grant, darling, you're late," Seraphina said. Her eyes flicked to Ariel. "And you've brought a guest." "Mother, father," Grant said firmly. "You know Ariel Vaughn." Alastair raised an eyebrow. "The housekeeper?" Ariel felt her face turn red, but Grant said, "Actually, Ariel is my date tonight." Seraphina's smile became tight. "How unexpected," she said coldly. "Excuse me, I must check the auction items." As his parents walked away, Grant sighed. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," Ariel said quietly. "Oh, I knew what I was walking into." The rest of the evening, Ariel could feel people staring and whispering, but Grant stayed close, introducing her proudly to everyone. At dinner, they sat with his family. Juliet gave Ariel a wink. Seraphina looked polite but cold. "So, Ariel," Seraphina said loudly, "how long have you been cleaning houses?" The table went silent. 5 years, Ariel said calmly. "Before that, I cared for my grandmother while going to college." "How admirable," Seraphina said with a fake smile. "And what did you study?" "Music education," Ariel answered. "I wanted to teach children someday." "She has an amazing voice," Grant said proudly. "She could have been a singer." "How fascinating," Seraphina replied. "And yet here you are folding our laundry." Before Ariel could answer, the hospital director tapped his glass for speeches. Grant leaned close. "I'm sorry about my mother." "It's okay," Ariel whispered. "She's protecting what she values." "I value something different," Grant said, looking into her eyes. Then Bianca, the woman who left Grant at the altar, walked in wearing a red gown. Everyone whispered. Grant froze. "I didn't know she'd come." "Are you okay?" Ariel asked. He looked at her and smiled softly. "Yes, I'm okay now." Later, Bianca came over. "Grant," she said sweetly. "You look well, Bianca," he said coolly. She looked at Ariel. "And who is this?" "This is Ariel Vaughn," Grant said proudly. Bianca's smile turned sharp. "Are you new to Charleston society?" Grant answered for Ariel. "She works at my estate, and she's the kindest person in this room." Bianca blinked, then smirked. "How progressive of you, Grant. We should catch up sometime." "I don't think so," he said firmly. "Those times are over." As Bianca walked away, Ariel sighed. "That was awkward." Grant laughed. "Not for me. I feel nothing for her now." The band started playing a waltz. "Dance with me?" he asked. "I don't know how," she said. "I'll teach you," he smiled. "It's just swaying with rules." He guided her gently. Soon Ariel relaxed and smiled. "You're a good teacher." "You're a natural," he whispered. Everyone was watching, but Grant didn't care. "Let them," he said. "I don't live for their approval anymore." When the dance ended, he said, "Want some air?" They went to the garden. The moonlight shone and the smell of jasmine filled the air. "I'm sorry about tonight," Grant said quietly. "My mother, Bianca." "Don't apologize," Ariel said. "I knew what I was getting into." Grant took her hands. "Did you?" "Because I'm not sure I do. I'm breaking all the rules I grew up with, and I don't regret it." He touched her cheek gently. "You were there when no one else was, not because of my name or money, but because you cared." "It's my job," Ariel said softly. "No," he said. "Your job is to clean the house, not save the man inside it. But you did." He leaned closer, about to kiss her, when the terrace doors opened. Seraphina Crestwell stood there, her face cold. "Grant, the hospital director needs you. It's time for the family photo." Grant didn't let go of Ariel's hand. "We'll be right in." "Just family," Seraphina said firmly. Ariel slowly pulled her hand away. "Go," she said gently. "It's important." He hesitated, then nodded. "Wait for me. We'll leave right after." As he walked inside, Seraphina turned to Ariel. "This little game has gone on long enough." "It's not a game," Ariel said, standing tall. "Whatever it is, it ends tonight," Seraphina said coldly. "Grant will come to his senses. The Crestwell family has standards. That should be his choice," Ariel said calmly. And for the first time, Seraphina had no answer. Seraphina Crestwell's laugh was cold, not happy at all. "My dear," she said, Do you really think you belong in my son's world? There are board meetings, big fancy parties, and high expectations. You don't belong here. Ariel's heart hurt because those words sounded like her own secret thoughts. Maybe she's right, she thought sadly. Maybe I really don't belong, but she stood tall and said, maybe not, but I care about your son. I care about the person he is, not his position. How touching, Serafina said with a wave of her hand. Let me make this easy for you. If you really care for Grant, you'll stop seeing him. His job at Crestwell Industries, reputation in this town, everything depends on making the right choices. You are not the right choice. You're asking me to break his heart to protect his reputation, Ariel said softly. I'm telling you to know your place, Serafina answered sharply. Go back to being a maid or find another job. Those are your only options if you don't want to ruin everything my son has worked for. Then Serafina turned and walked back into the ballroom, leaving Ariel alone under the cold night sky. Inside the ballroom, Grant stood stiffly beside his family while cameras flashed. He smiled for the photos, but his heart wasn't in it. He was thinking about Ariel on the terrace. When the pictures were done, he looked around the crowded room for her. She was nowhere to be seen. Juliet, his sister, came up to him with worry on her face. If you're looking for Ariel, I saw her leave a few minutes ago, she said. Leave? But I told her to wait for me, Grant said quickly. Mom found her a ride home, Juliet said, sounding upset. Grant froze. What did Mother say to her? Juliet just looked at him sadly. Grant didn't answer. He rushed out of the ballroom, pulling out his phone to call Ariel, but the call went straight to voicemail. Back at the Crestwell estate, Ariel quietly changed out of the fancy green dress she had borrowed for the gala. She carefully hung it up, her hands shaking. Tears filled her eyes, but she tried not to cry. What was I thinking, she thought? That a fairy tale could come true? That a billionaire could really fall in love with a maid? She opened her drawer and looked at the note Grant had once written her. You are the only part of this house that makes it feel like home. Ariel traced the words gently with her finger, then put the note away. Serafina Crestwell was right. Ariel didn't belong in Grant's world. And if staying near him meant ruining his family's trust and his job, the kindest thing she could do was step away. She sat at her small desk and began to write a letter of resignation, tears falling onto the paper. When Grant came home later that night, the house was dark and quiet. He went straight to the small apartment where Ariel lived and knocked on her door. Ariel, he called softly. Please, I know you're in there. We need to talk. After a long pause, the door opened. Ariel stood there in her pajamas, her eyes red from crying. It's late, Grant, she whispered. You should get some rest. What did my mother say to you? He asked. Ariel shook her head. She didn't say anything I hadn't already thought myself. Tonight was lovely, but it wasn't real. We come from different worlds. That's not true, Grant said quickly. What's between us is the most real thing I've felt in years. And what exactly is between us? Ariel asked quietly. What future do we have? Your family will never accept me. Your business partners will laugh at you. The newspapers will call me names. Do you really want that? I don't care what they say, Grant said. But you should, Ariel replied sadly. It's your life, your family's name. She handed him an envelope. This is my 2 weeks' notice. I think it's better if I find another job. Grant stared at the letter. You're quitting? Just like that? It's for the best, Ariel said, her voice trembling even though her eyes said she didn't want to go. I don't accept this, Grant said. We'll talk tomorrow after we've both rested. As he turned to leave, Ariel said softly, That mountain cabin you won at the auction, take Juliet. Go away for the weekend. Clear your head. Grant looked back at her, his heart aching. Is that what you want? I think we both need some perspective, she whispered. That night, neither of them slept. Grant sat in his study until morning, staring at a blank page. Ariel lay in bed, hearing Serafina's words in her head. If you truly care for Grant, you'll end whatever this is. Ariel did care, too much. Too much to be the reason his family turned on him. Too much to make him lose everything he had worked for. The next morning, Grant sat at his office, staring at Ariel's resignation letter. It sat unopened on his desk, haunting him. His assistant buzzed on the intercom. "Your mother is here to see you, Mr. Crestwell." Grant sighed. "Send her in." Serafina walked in, perfectly dressed as always. "You left the gala so suddenly," she said. "Why?" "You know why," Grant said coldly. "What did you say to Ariel?" "I reminded her of reality," Serafina replied calmly. "Who we are, who she is." "You had no right," Grant said. "I had every right," she answered. "Everything your father and grandfather built depends on keeping standards." "Standards are appearances?" Grant snapped. "In our world they are the same," Serafina said. She noticed the envelope on the desk and smiled. "I see she made the sensible choice." "This isn't over," Grant said. "I haven't accepted her resignation." Serafina sighed. "Darling, this is just a silly infatuation." "It's not an infatuation," Grant said angrily. "I care about her deeply." "You're still hurt after Bianca," Serafina said gently. "This has nothing to do with Bianca," he said. "For once I found someone who sees me. Not my name, not my money. Me." Serafina frowned slightly. "And you don't think that's exactly why she's close to you? She's a single mother with few options." Grant froze. "Single mother? What are you talking about? Ariel doesn't have a child." "She hasn't told you," Serafina said softly, taking out a folder. "Our security check shows she has a 6-year-old daughter named Lyra who lives with her aunt in Atlanta." Grant stared in shock. "A daughter?" Serafina nodded. "She was only 19 when she had the baby. She left college, and she sends most of her pay to support her daughter." Grant sat down, his world spinning. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you deserve the truth," Serafina said quietly. "She's hiding things from you." After Serafina left, Grant sat alone, staring at the folder. He wanted to throw it away and trust Ariel, but the part of him still hurt from his past wanted answers. He finally opened the folder. It was true. Ariel had a little girl named Lyra. The file even had a picture of her. Bright eyes, Ariel's smile. The pain Grant felt wasn't because Ariel was a mother. It was because she hadn't trusted him enough to tell him. At the Crestwell estate, Ariel worked quietly, trying to keep herself busy. When she got back to her small apartment that evening, she found a package outside her door. Inside was the green gown she had worn at the gala, freshly cleaned, with a note from Juliet. "Keep it. It was always meant for you." Ariel smiled sadly and hung it in her closet. Then she picked up her phone and called her aunt. "Hi, Auntie May. Can I talk to Lyra?" Her little girl's happy voice came on the phone. "Mommy, guess what? I got an A on my spelling test." Ariel smiled through tears. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you." "When are you coming to visit, Mommy? It's been forever." "Soon, baby. Maybe sooner than you think," Ariel said softly. After the call, Ariel dialed another number, her old boss in Atlanta. "Is that job offer still open?" she asked quietly. It was time to start a new life, away from the Crestwells, away from Grant, and away from the dream she once believed could come true. The next day, Grant didn't return to the estate. Mrs. Peterson told Ariel, "Mr. Crestwell said he's going to the mountain cabin for the weekend." "Alone?" Ariel asked softly. Mrs. Peterson nodded. "He didn't say, just asked me to pack his things." Ariel tried to hide her sadness, but her heart ached. Maybe this was the clean goodbye she needed. Later, while cleaning his study, she noticed his leather journal left open on the desk. She knew she shouldn't look, but one line caught her eye. "How do I tell her that I think I'm falling in love with her?" The words made her heart stop. It was dated the night of the gala. Before she could think, her phone rang. It was Juliet. "Have you seen Grant today?" Juliet asked quickly. "No," Ariel said. "He went to the cabin," Juliet said, "but he hasn't called me since he got there, and there's a storm coming. I'm worried." Ariel's heart filled with fear. Juliet continued, "Mom told him about your daughter. I think he was upset. Not because you have a child, but because you didn't tell him. Ariel sat down, feeling dizzy. I was going to tell him. I was just scared. I know, Juliet said softly, but he loves you, Ariel. You need to talk to him before it's too late. After the call, Ariel made up her mind. She asked Mrs. Peterson for the address of the mountain cabin, grabbed her coat, and ran to her car. The drive took hours, and the snow grew thicker. Her car slid on the icy roads, but she kept going. By the time she reached the narrow road leading to the cabin, the snow was heavy. Her old car began to slip and stall. When the cabin lights finally appeared in the distance, her car stopped completely. Ariel didn't give up. She opened the door, wrapped her coat tightly, and walked through the snow. Her shoes were soaked and the wind was icy, but she kept moving toward the warm glow of the cabin, where Grant was waiting, hurt and alone. By the time Ariel reached the small wooden cabin, she was shaking all over from the cold. The wind was howling and snow was falling hard. She knocked on the door with her teeth chattering. She prayed that Grant was inside and not out in the storm. After what felt like forever, the door opened. Grant stood there, his eyes full of surprise and then worry. Ariel, what are you doing here? You're freezing, he said. He quickly pulled her inside and closed the door tight to keep out the wind. The cabin was warm and cozy. A fire crackled in the big stone fireplace. Ariel could barely talk as she said, "My car key got stuck. I couldn't start it. I was worried about you." Grant led her to the fireplace and wrapped a soft blanket around her shoulders. "You drove all the way here in this terrible storm because you were worried about me?" he asked gently. Ariel nodded, still too cold to talk much. Slowly, warmth came back to her fingers and face. Grant went into the kitchen and came back with a steaming mug of coffee. "Here, drink this," he said, handing it to her. Ariel took a sip, feeling the warmth spread through her body, but even as she warmed up, she felt the heavy silence between them. There were things they hadn't said. Grant sat across from her, looking serious. "Why didn't you tell me you have a daughter?" he asked softly. Ariel looked down into her cup. "At first I didn't think it mattered," she said quietly. "You were my boss. Then when we started becoming close, I got scared. I was afraid it would change how you saw me, that you'd think I was only after your money, or that you wouldn't want someone who already has a child." Grant frowned. "You thought I was that shallow?" "No," she said quickly. "I just thought the world you live in might be. I wanted to protect my little girl. She's already been through enough sadness. I didn't want her to get close to someone who might not stay." Grant was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Tell me about her." Ariel smiled a little. "Her name is Lyra. She's smart and kind and loves music like me. She's in first grade now, living with my aunt in Atlanta while I work and save money so we can have our own home." Grant nodded. "That's why you send most of your salary to Atlanta," he said softly. Ariel blinked. "Your mother told you?" "She did," Grant admitted. "She did a background check. I'm sorry, Ariel, that was wrong. I should have asked you myself." Ariel sighed. "I should have told you sooner, but being with you felt like a dream. I didn't want to wake up." The wind howled outside. Grant stood and put another log on the fire. "What are we doing, Ariel?" he asked quietly. "What is this between us?" Ariel looked up at him, her heart racing. "I think I'm falling in love with you," she whispered. "And it scares me." Grant's eyes widened. "You saw my journal." "I didn't mean to," she said. "It was open on your desk." He knelt beside her chair and took her hands. "Those words were true," he said. "I am falling in love with you too, but I need you to trust me with everything, not just the parts you think I want to know." Tears filled Ariel's eyes. "I want to, but your mother told me that someone like me could never fit in your world, that I'd ruin everything." Grant shook his head. "My mother doesn't get to choose who I love. Neither does the fancy society or my company board. I do. But she's right about one thing," Ariel whispered. "I don't belong in your world." "Then maybe," Grant said softly. It's time for me to build a new one where we both belong. He took a folded paper from his pocket. I've been thinking a lot about what matters, he said, handing it to her. Ariel opened it. It was a business plan titled Crestwell Music Foundation, bringing music education to children who need it most. I don't understand, Ariel said. Grant smiled. My grandfather believed that business should help people, not just make money. He left a trust that I control. I want to use it to start a foundation that helps kids learn music, and I want you to run it. Ariel stared at him. Me? Who better? He said. You love music. You understand what these kids need. You have the heart for it. It would pay well enough for you and Lyra to live in Charleston. You'd be doing what you love, helping others. And us? Ariel asked softly. What about us? The foundation is yours no matter what, Grant said. No strings attached, but I hope you'll give us a real chance, not as boss and worker, but as equals. Ariel's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were happy ones. He wasn't offering her charity, he was offering her respect and love. I want to meet her, Grant said suddenly. Lyra, if she's part of your life, I want her to be part of mine too. Ariel's heart swelled. You really mean that? Grant leaned forward and kissed her gently. I've never meant anything more. Outside, the storm raged, but inside, something new and beautiful was growing. They talked all night, about Lyra, about the foundation, and about their dreams. For the first time, Ariel shared everything. When morning came, the snow-covered mountains sparkled in pink and gold light. We should head back, Grant said, wrapping an arm around her. There's a lot to do. Your mother won't like it, Ariel warned. Grant smiled. She doesn't have to. Some things are worth fighting for. 2 weeks later, Ariel stood at the airport in Atlanta with Grant beside her. She was nervous but excited. Then through the crowd, a little girl came running. Mommy! Lyra cried, throwing herself into Ariel's arms. Ariel hugged her tightly, tears of joy running down her cheeks. I missed you so much, baby. After a long hug, Ariel said, Lyra, this is my friend Grant, the one I told you about. Grant knelt down to her level. Hi, Lyra. Your mom told me you're amazing. Lyra tilted her head. Do you really have a big house with a garden like Mommy said? Grant smiled. I do, and I was hoping you and your mom would come live there. The garden needs someone to play in it. Lyra's eyes got wide. For how long? Grant looked at Ariel, his eyes warm and full of love. For as long as you both want. Ariel knelt beside them, taking Lyra's little hand in one of hers and Grant's big hand in the other. Remember how I said things were going to change? She said. Well, this is part of it. Lyra looked from her mom to Grant. Is he part of the change too? If that's okay with you, Grant said gently. Lyra thought for a moment, then asked, Do you make my mommy happy? Grant looked at Ariel with a soft smile. I try my best. He does, Ariel said, smiling. He makes me very happy. Lyra nodded seriously. Then it's okay with me. They walked through the airport together, Lyra chatting happily between them. Ariel felt amazed. Life had changed so much, from cleaning the Crestwell mansion to running a foundation, from hiding who she was to being fully loved, from missing her daughter to having her by her side. A month later, the newspaper showed a big photo on the front page, the Crestwell Music Foundation grand opening. In the picture, Grant stood with his arm around Ariel, Lyra between them, cutting the ribbon. Grant's mother, Mrs. Crestwell, stood to the side, her face a mix of surprise and respect. The news called it a scandal, a rich man dating his former maid, but Grant and Ariel didn't care. That evening, after the celebration, Ariel tucked Lyra into bed in her new room. Then she and Grant sat together on the porch, watching fireflies dance above the garden. Happy? Grant asked, holding her hand. More than I ever thought I could be, Ariel said, though your mother still looks at me like I'm going to steal the silver. Grant laughed. She's trying in her own way. Yesterday she told me Lyra has excellent posture. Ariel giggled. High praise indeed. She'll come around, Grant said, and if she doesn't, it doesn't change anything between us. From inside the house, a record began to play, an old gospel song. Ariel rested her head on his shoulder and hummed softly. You know, she said, when Bianca left you at the altar, everyone thought it was the worst thing that could happen. Grant smiled. It was until it led me to the best thing. He looked into her eyes. You stayed when no one else did. You saw me at my worst and didn't walk away. How could I not fall in love with you? Ariel touched his face gently. I stayed because even at your worst, you were worth staying for. As they kissed under the stars, they knew this was real. Their love didn't come from fancy parties or riches. It came from kindness, honesty, and staying when it mattered most. And sometimes the most beautiful love stories begin in the most ordinary ways, with someone who simply stays when everyone else walks away.